Welcome to Screw the Commute, the entrepreneurial podcast dedicated to getting you out of the car and into the money with your host, lifelong entrepreneur and multimillionaire, Tom Antion.
Hey everybody, it's Tom here with episode 222 of Screw the Commute podcast. This is a momentous episode. I'm here with Ilya Pozin. He was my first techno geek propeller head I recruited out of Comp USA. I think it was in 1997. And if you count it up on all your fingers and toes, that's not even like half of the millions of dollars this guy's made because of his online efforts. So I can't wait to get him on here in a minute or so. Now, hope you didn't miss episode 221. Nicole Hubert, she's a professional dog trainer, and that's a very lucrative field. And she's trained my protection dogs, and she has a big pet training facility in Virginia Beach area, so she'll take you into the dog world. Now, you should grab a copy of, you especially on this episode, should grab a copy of my automation ebook. That's our $27 ebook that we are thanking you and just giving it to you for listening to the podcast. But just one of the tips in this ebook has saved me over 7.5 million keystrokes. And I am not exaggerating. And guess who turned me on to this tip in 1997? All right. Ilya, that was short keys. Short keys has saved me. I'm complaining about having to type the same crap over and over again. And Ilya, who I'll bring on in a minute, little smart Alex, says, just shut up. He's telling me, just shut up. And he'd come back in a few minutes and have the problem fixed. And so I've been using that program since 1997 and just saved me millions and millions of keystrokes. That's just one of the things that he helped me with in this book. Another is an Exchange server. He got me on that. That's an email thing. And loads of other ways that I automate the business. So you can find that at screwthecommute.com/automate free. Screwthecommute.com/automate free. Okay, I hope you, while you're at it, grab a copy of our podcast app. It's in the App Store. And you can also go to screwthecommute.com/app, that's APP, where we have complete screen captures and instructions on how to use all the fancy features so you can take us with you on the road, on your cell phone, and your tablet. Now, our sponsor is the Internet Marketing Training Center of Virginia. It's a distance learning school which teaches legitimate techniques to make a great living, either working for someone else or starting your own online business, or both. And we just got approved by the Department of Defense to participate in a scholarship program for military spouses. And we also give big scholarships to law enforcement, first responders, and any kind of military veterans or active duty and their immediate family. So check that out at imtcva.org. All right, let's get to the main event. Ilya Pozin is a serial entrepreneur who immigrated to the U.S. when he was 8 years old. Ilya started his first company in high school, and that's where I met him, and built his second company after moving to Los Angeles. After selling both companies, he founded his third company called Pluto TV, which Viacom acquired this year for, listen to this, hope you're sitting down, $340 million. All right, that's with an M. Oh man, this is awesome. And he knows, Ilya knows, next time I come to LA, he's buying dinner. No question about it. So Ilya is not only an aspirational entrepreneur, but a prime example of the American dream. Ilya, you ready to screw the commute? Screw me, Tom. You're the first one that said that. Hey, man, I am just so freaking thrilled for you that I had something to do with keeping you out of the corporate rat race to start with, and you really took off with it. So tell everybody about what you're doing now, and then the evolution of these companies that you built once you left here.
Yeah, so I think you actually have a lot to do with where I ended up. I remember, I think I was 15 or 16 working at Comp USA.
Yep.
And this guy walks in with a set of questions, goes around the whole store. Everyone says, go ask Ilya, go ask Ilya. He walks up to me at the counter, I answer his questions. He didn't really care for the answers. It was all like a ploy for him to find a propeller head, right? And then I remember you telling me, you're like, look, I'll just double whatever you're making here, come work for me. And then I thought it was a scam, like literally.
So did your parents, I think.
So did my parents. But it actually gets worse, because I get in my car. I remember to like, I'm 16 years old. I could barely drive. I go up to your house to meet you, and your claim to fame is that you're this, multi-millionaire internet marketing coach. And I pull up to this, I don't know if I could curse in this thing, but to this shitty house. I walk past your roommate, go down to the basement, and I walk into literally a pigsty. I don't even know how a person lived down there. And I remember you actually were the real deal, but I don't know how like, for anyone going and looking at how you live and operate and say, look, this is where I work from, this is where you're going to be working from. I literally thought it was a scam. And it got more interesting too, because that first day I was there, you wrote me a check. And in the top left corner of the check, it said Prank Master. And I'm like, holy shit, this is literally like, I just quit my job at CompUSA, and this is what I walked into. I thought I literally I was looking for like hidden cameras. I thought that was a TV show. So, but what's interesting, and I still remember to this day, 20 years later, right? I'm 36 now, but I remember you said, look, I can hire you as an employee, or you could start your own business and I can hire you as a consultant, and I'll teach you everything about starting a company, forming a company, paying your taxes. You could have other clients like me. And that's the path I chose. And that is honestly the spark of me becoming an entrepreneur, because from there forward, I always started my own companies. I never really worked for anyone, and I just went down this entrepreneur path from the day I got this check from Prank Masters. Tom Anzio.
You know what, Ilya? The checks still say Prank Masters on them.
No way.
I swear to God, yeah. See, one of the things, folks, is I keep the expenses low. And, now I got this big, honking place and everything. But the idea is you don't want to play the game that you're super rich and then spend all your money looking good, but then you're broke. So I was very frugal. I grew up very frugal. And I started my own corporation for $50 from a book. And it was Prank Masters Incorporated, which was my entertainment company. So instead of starting a new corporation, I just said, I'll do doing business as Antion Associates, but the check still said Prank Masters.
Does anyone ever question you? Like, what
Absolutely.
is going on?
And I love it. But you see, now with my reputation and how I'm known now, oh, well, he's just eccentric. Don't worry about it. So I've always been eccentric. So I'm glad that I didn't scare you off that first day. I'm sure you probably didn't tell your parents about it, because they would have probably...
Oh, no way. I wish we need to dig up those photos, because I'm telling you, for everyone listening, you have... I think there's a show called Hoarders. Like, you literally were qualified to be on
you know what? I don't think you know about this. My whole living room was full of boxes, because back then it was cassette tapes and stuff, and we had duplicating tapes. And my whole living room, which was right by the front door, was full of boxes, top to bottom. And so one day I got home, and the front door was open. It was late at night, and I called the police because my roommate was at work. He said, no, I'm not there. And the front door is wide open. And so I called the police, and they brought the dogs, canines, and they're yelling in the front door, if there's anybody in there, we're sending the dogs in. and they finally went in and nobody was there, and they're looking around like, yeah, you got robbed, you got hit, the whole and my roommate had just forgot to lock the door, and it blew open in the wind.
Yeah, and I'm sure they walked downstairs and it looks like somebody rummaged through your whole house. But
right.
Lo and behold, that's actually how you live.
So it works for me. Put it that way. So you've now you always had a nice place. You went from an apartment when you moved to Los Angeles. So you had a company called Ciplex, Ciplex, when you were in high school, right? That's when it first started. And then you continued that and grew that. That was your first business in LA, right?
Yeah. So following me starting a company, thanks to you, my next company, people always came to me for computer kind of propeller head type work, come fix this, come build me a computer. And then in about 99 is when, the internet started to become a real thing and businesses wanted to go online. So naturally people started to come to me and say, hey, Ilya, do you know anything about going online? Can you build us a website? Can you help us market it? And I didn't know a thing about coding or designing. So I hired a couple buddies of mine from high school and formed a company called Ciplex, which, it was literally an opportunity. People came knocking. I didn't offer the service, but I saw that it was a growing business and I started a company. And, all through high school, I was just building websites for businesses. And that was early days. And then, when I went to college in Florida, and I continued.
And by the way, he had left me, went to Florida, and you were running the IT department down there too, I think. And then,
I was going to school full time. I was driving around a golf cart, and fixing computers around campus, and then running Ciplex all on the side. And
well, but those years, you were still the first person I called if I had trouble.
Oh, absolutely.
During those years, and then you got to where you're graduating, and then we had a talk.
Yeah, and then Tom gives me a call, and after you graduate, you get a job. That's what you do. And Tom says, "Look, I have I'll make you a deal. Here's a salary. I'm gonna buy you a house. I want you to move out to Virginia Beach. Bring your girlfriend, your dog, whatever, and move out to Virginia Beach and come live in this house and come work for me." And of course, I asked him for pictures of the house because I didn't want to come work in what was the last house, but this one was very different, Tom. And thanks for living much closer to where you actually are. And it was a beautiful mansion with, where you brought in students and taught them internet marketing. And you said, look, I want you to be my right hand. Let's continue where we started in high school. And I took a shot and did it and moved to Virginia Beach and moved into the house.
And then I don't know. I don't think we should reveal the television show yet, just in case we ever decide to develop it, of what the idea that we came out of it. But tell them about what happened at the other house.
So we move into the house, and and then every morning we, me and my girlfriend at that time, we went to Tom's house to work. Tom was nice enough to hire her as well as an assistant, and I did the usual stuff. And I think it was it a week after I moved in?
It wasn't long. No.
It wasn't long. We go back after a long day at work, back to the house, and this is a 2-story house, and pretty much the entire second floor is now on the first floor. A pipe burst upstairs in one of the bathrooms and was apparently leaking for probably 9-10 hours while we were at the office. And we came into the house and it was a complete disaster. And then,
and I kind of remember you were like, the sky is falling. The sky is falling. It was like,
I was losing my shit. Like, literally just moved in. Brianna's running around trying to figure out what happened to the photos? Like, what's damaged? It's just, and then luckily you had an extra room in your giant mansion, and we ended up moving in with you, which was fun to be working and living in the same place.
It was funny. It was a little bit of a culture clash because I'm such a loner, but it was fun. And So that went great for a couple of years or so, and then it came time to leave the roost, put it that way. So
well, yeah, I mean, look, as you were teaching, and I was helping you teach all these students internet marketing, I continued to run Cyplex on the side and apply the same techniques that we taught, the students of how to do things like search engine optimization and writing articles and online marketing and all these various things. And for some reason, and maybe it was part of this American dream that, when my family came here to the US, I had this California dream, and I knew that one day I wanted to live in Los Angeles, even though I've literally never set foot in Los Angeles. And I began to optimize Cyplex.com for keywords like Los Angeles web design. So when people Googled, LA web design or whatever, we started to come up at the top, and over time, the phone rang once or twice a week, and it got to a point where it was ringing 2 to 3 times a day. And I remember coming to you and I said, Tom, there's a big opportunity. I can't take this business on. I can't even meet with people. They're calling me. I don't even live in LA. I think there's a real play here, and I'm sorry, but I gotta leave and I pursue this opportunity, and moved to LA and quickly grew that business from being a side business to doing about 5 million a year in revenue, and it grew pretty fast.
Yeah, you were doing high-end websites, and it wasn't any kind of boo-hoo, he's leaving. Although I missed you for sure, but it was the time. It was time for you to grow and spread your wings. And I kind of feel like if somebody's here for 20 years, I'm holding them back. They're really not pursuing their dreams. They're not improving themselves. So it was, I was totally behind you. And then it was a little bit of departure from what I do, because I teach people how to do $150, world-class sites, but you were getting what, 15, 20, 25,000 for them. So
Yeah,
I don't blame
yeah.
you. Yeah. You had some really big clients.
We did. We did projects from a few $1,000s to hundreds of thousands of dollars, and we got to a point where, because of our referral business and the online marketing we were doing about 200 to 300 projects a year.
And how many people did you have?
We had about 40 people working on these projects, and it was a very good running business. We got to work on a lot of startups, a lot of e-commerce sites, everything from a dentist needing to go online to, a brand new dating app or whatever that's coming out. And what was interesting about that is, I ran the gamut, not only for my own business, but also, all the projects we took on, especially the bigger ones, the startups. I really got into the weeds of all of them. So it doesn't matter. It became almost kind of like statistical for me, right? Whether you were a dentist, we knew that you need a website so you can bring potential customers in and get them to come to your office and, give them a free exam or something, and then they become your client, right? And it doesn't, or if you're a dating app, you need somebody to download your app and then use your app and pay for it. Whatever it is, it literally, it almost blurred into one thing. And it just became this flow of, we were building businesses for people, whether they were existing and we were improving them. The whole point was to bring people in, make more money, bring people in, make more money. And it wasn't just build a website. We needed to market, we needed to grow the businesses. And, we did this for many, many years, and doing hundreds of projects a year. It got to a point where it all almost became like the Matrix, Tom. Like it didn't matter what I was working on. It was just a business. And startup, existing, doctor, dating, whatever it was, it literally was building another business. And really, it was interesting because I got to use other people's money to go to the best school possible, right? And watched all these businesses in every single sector grow. And it was right there at the forefront. And one day, I kind of caught the startup bug myself, and I said, look, we keep working on all these clients. It's all starting to blur. Every client's the same. I got to move on to doing my own startup. and launched a company called OpenMe, which was a gifting and greeting company. And that was the first time I raised capital. We went out and raised $500,000 of outside capital for Cyplex. We never raised any money. We made good profit. We took that, invested back in the business, grew further. But I ended up selling Cyplex to the CEO that I put in place, Zach, that was running it, and he gladly took it on and sold it, and then went to run OpenMe, which was my first kind of startup venture. And I actually used Cyplex to build that company because we were really good at building startups. So used that and ended up selling that company. So Cyplex I sold for about $1.5 million. OpenMe I sold for $6 million. And then after OpenMe is when the idea for Pluto TV sparked.
Yeah, now the reason I like Cyplex, where I own the web domain name killyourwebdesigner.com. So the reason I like Cyplex is because it wasn't the typical, take as much money as you can. You don't care if they make any money. You don't care anything. Just get the money for some fancy design that they don't even know what they're getting. So Cyplex, like you said, helped them build a business. So that was highly reputable, and you deserved the big money you got for that.
Yeah, completely. It was, and a lot of times people came to us and said, "Look, I have $50,000, whatever it was, and I want to do this." And I looked under the hood. I said, "No, you don't. That's not what you need. Like, you could spend actually less and make a lot more. And let's take this approach." So we weren't just taking service orders and responding to what people asked for. In fact, the biggest reason we grew so fast is in probably 80-90% of the time when somebody came to us with an ask, we actually said, "No, this is wrong. This is how you do it."
Yeah, and you were honest about it. That's the whole thing, which sets you so far apart from the typical place that would just take every nickel you could plus more.
Oh yeah, everyone else literally just had like a template proposal, threw in what the client asked for, and charged them a few zeros. And
all right, so
that's not how things work.
So how'd you get the idea for Pluto?
So I was I'm working on one monitor, and I'm picking YouTube videos for my daughter who's sitting in my lap on my other monitor, and I found it to be a very painful process because I literally just learned how to change diapers, and I was by no means an expert of children's video. So I would look up a clip and find a video. Sometimes she liked it. Sometimes she said, "No, pick me another one." And I'm trying to work, and I found it to be a very painful process. And a lot of times I picked something and it was inappropriate for her to watch. So and I knew when she was in front of regular television, right, and watching, I don't know, like Disney or Nick Jr. or whatever it was, she would watch for hours. And what I realized is the big difference between the internet and video you find online and TV is television is highly curated, right? You have professional people that know how to put together a channel or multiple channels of really good content, and their whole job is to get you to watch as long as possible.
Yep.
Right.
Binge.
And exactly. And that was and linear TV, like the channel-based TV, right? Not like Netflix on demand. Linear TV it still dominates, and it was dominating then. And that's how people watch, because a lot of times people come home and they don't know what they want to watch, right? They just want to be entertained. They hit the guide button, they pick a channel and put on whatever, HDTV or some reruns of Friends or whatever it was, right? And what I found is there was nothing like that on the internet. For some reason, everything online was all about search, right? And what I realized is search is really good if you know what you're looking for, but it's a completely horrible experience if you don't know what you're looking for. In fact, I'm sure all of us who are listening to this have found ourselves in front of Netflix or whatever we watch, sitting there and browsing title after title for 45 minutes just to figure out what to watch.
Yeah, it's true. I just did it.
And literally, but in front of a TV, you just hit guide and you're literally watching, right? So I built a prototype where I took I plugged into the YouTube API, and by the way, any startup you do, you want to validate the idea first,
Right,
right?
of
So
course.
this is what we built. We did this for Cyplex all day long. Clients came to us with a lot of money, said, "I want to build this," and we said, "No, hold on, let's prove it out first. Give us a little bit of money. We'll do a test. We'll see if users like it, and then we'll iterate and we'll go from there." So my hypothesis was, let's take YouTube videos, plug into the YouTube API, and curate them into channels. And let's take stand-up comedy and make a stand-up comedy channel. Let's take kids videos and create a kids channel. But not only just a kids channel of all kids content, because kids are 2 and kids are 15. Let's create a kids channel for toddlers and teens, etc. Right? So we built about 70, 80 channels. We had like hockey fights and helicopter police chases. It was some really cool stuff. And we put it all together in a guide. And we did something crazy. We removed all the player controls. So you couldn't fast forward, skip, rewind, nothing. So you would go to Pluto.tv, you would pick the channel, and we would we would force you into a schedule. And if it was 8:10 p.m., you would watch exactly the same clip in the exact frame. We would drop you halfway into the video if it was halfway into the video at 8:10 p.m., we was on a schedule. So we drop you halfway in, even though we didn't have to, right? Because all the content is on demand.
Right.
We essentially created this linear continuous viewing experience that was synchronous. So you watch the same thing as everyone else, which became kind of really social. And what we saw, the numbers right out the gate were staggering. Back then, this was in 2013, the average person, YouTube puts out their stats, and they put out a stat that the average person came to YouTube and watched 1.2 videos per session. And right out the gate, we put out Pluto, and we saw that the average person was watching 28 videos back to back to back. Because we curated them. We picked good content. I hired contractors who knew kids content.
And this is all free. Shows. This is all free too.
It's all free, all back to back, all free, all ad supported. And we knew we were onto something because, when you're literally, multiple increasing YouTube's numbers, and our average person was watching for 30, 40 minutes, and the videos are like 2 to 3 minutes long, you know? So on YouTube, they were watching for 3-4 minutes, and we knew that we had something serious. And, we took that prototype and continued to evolve it. Partnered with some people, built out a team, and started building apps for different, for iPhone, and, improved the website, made it professional. And then of course you can't really build a business off of YouTube's content because it's not your content to monetize. So what we started to go after the same content that, the content owners put on YouTube. We went to them directly and said, look, we'll give us the content directly. We'll license it from you, and we'll make money from advertising, and we'll split the revenue with you. We'll give you a rev share. And they said yes. They didn't care because their content was already all over the internet. So why not put it in another place? And we started to write bigger and bigger and bigger checks, and Pluto continued to grow.
All right, now a couple things. How did you come up with the name?
So it's funny. We're all brainstorming a name, and I was always a fan of a name like Apple from a marketing perspective. I'm naturally a marketing guy, and to me, whenever I build a business, I think, how do I market the business first and foremost? And what I love about Apple is it's so easy to remember. It's top of mind, and whenever you go to a grocery store, you buy an apple, you'll subconsciously also think of Apple. So I was almost against names like Cyplex, like my original company name, or companies like Hulu or Netflix that kind of like made something up, and we were living in an era of like, let's throw an extra consonant at the end and call it dig or something else, right? And I thought that was so, like, you couldn't say it on the radio, on TV, in a commercial, you had to spell it out. I just wanted something that's so easy to remember, everyone already knew, but we could still own. And right around the same time, Pluto was being demoted as a planet. I said, man, wouldn't it be great to give it a new life form as the new and the future of online television? And I went to Pluto.tv, and it was available. I think I bought it for $600, and Pluto was formed.
There you go. So, all right. So now the next thing I want to explore is you can only go so far you dumping your own money in. All right. So when you got startup capital, what's the process? What did you do exactly? Where did you go to put your projects in front of potential investors?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, I raised money for my last company, but it was only $500,000,
Right.
and it wasn't a lot when you look at how much startups are raising. But what I remembered about that process is when you're the CEO of a company and you're raising capital, you're focused on raising capital, and it's a full-time job in itself. And then but somebody's got to also run the business and build the product and manage the team. So I knew that for this venture for Pluto, even though the idea was mine, I knew that I wasn't going to be the person that's going to go out there and raise millions and millions of dollars. There are much better people for that. And I also knew that I wasn't the right person to be the CEO of a big media company. Like, what do I know? I barely even watch television. I had an idea for a problem I wanted to solve. It worked, but I needed somebody with more experience. So I ended up partnering with my partner, Tom, different Tom, but seems like the name Tom is
it's in your life. Yeah.
Yeah. And ended up partnering with Tom, and who was actually the CEO of Threadless out from Chicago. And Threadless was the company that partnered with OpenMe, the startup that I ran, in order to take their designs and turn them into greeting cards and gifting products and things like that. And Tom was leaving Chicago and moving to LA. And I said, hey, take a look at this little prototype I put together, and it's working. The data is coming back phenomenal. Why don't we partner on this and work on this together? And at first he was like, come on, I'm just moving here. This is the first opportunity. I can't just jump right in. And after a little bit of convincing, I got him to join, and we partnered up. We became co-founders, and we started to go after capital. And Tom actually came, being a very successful, seasoned entrepreneur. He's had multiple exits. He's built companies and got them acquired. He worked for a VC, so he's raised millions and millions of dollars. He knew exactly where to go. He already had a great reputation. And when you have a good reputation, a lot of times when you're building an early stage company, investors don't even care about your idea. They care about who you are, and they back the team, rather than the business, especially early on when it literally is just an early idea. And Tom had that reputation where he had, investors that said, look, anything you're working on next, we'll back. And we ended up raising our Series A, which is like our first official round, was about $12 million. And we ended up getting that capital. Overall, before we got acquired, I think we raised just over $50 million. And, our investors were strategic companies like Samsung and Scripps, now Discovery, all the way to institutional investors like U.S. Venture Partners and the Pritzker Group, and big VCs, like that. And when you're raising capital, there are definitely a lot of lessons there. And I was luckily by Tom's side because I wanted to learn how everything was going.
Right.
And there's good investors, there's bad investors, there's smart money, there's dumb money. There are people that are helpful, there are people that are hurtful. So you don't just go out there and just take a check. And you got to be smart. It's just like almost like putting together your team, your employees. It's in a similar way you put together your investors.
Yeah. So you actually attended pitch meetings and things like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that was a fun process. And we had so many no's. We had no after no after no. And I'm sitting there going like, how? Like, why are people turning us away? And, look at the numbers. They're phenomenal. And people were just, at first they were against the thesis because everything online was going on demand and everything online was going subscription, right? This was when like Netflix and Hulu and everyone and their mother were launching like paid on-demand subscription services. And we were going, no, we're not paid and on demand. we're free and linear. So like they thought we were rebuilding television from like the old antenna days, and they thought we were like, what are we doing? We're going back in time here.
I'll bet you there's a lot of people kicking themselves right now.
Oh, for sure. But then what happens typically when you raise capital is you have one credible investor that says yes, and then the tables completely turn, and now because they're credible and they validated you, everyone now wants it. And so for us, that was a USVP out of the Bay Area. They said yes, heavily on Tom's reputation, but they also liked me and the business and the thesis, and they said, look, we're going to take a bet on you. They said yes, and I kid you not, Tom, like that same day, we were shooing away capital. People were knocking on our door, and we went from no one's going to fund you to, all right, now we get the pick of the litter. We get to work and put together a really good strategic investor team, and let's get the right people on board. And once you're validated, it's really all about reputation, reputation of the team, reputation of your investor. Once you're validated, everything changes.
And so then how many years till this big deal came in?
6 years, actually. Yeah. So we launched the company. We launched Pluto, I think it was April of 2000. Well, we built it in 2013 for about a year. Right. And we launched it, I believe, in April of 2014. And about 5 years after we launched it, we got an offer that we brought to our board, and the board's agreed to move forward.
And they came to you just out of nowhere?
Yeah. I mean, it's very common that they say companies get bought, they don't get sold. At least when it's a good outcome, and we were never looking to sell.
Right.
We literally we didn't hire a banker. We didn't go out knocking on doors saying, hey, we want to sell. Our business was growing and is still growing to this day so fast that we weren't looking for to sell. We had a really successful, fast-growing business, and but we actually came to Viacom for a content deal, right? So, stepping back a little bit, what's interesting is we started out with a bunch of short-form clips, right? The same things we found on YouTube, but what we really wanted, what we knew television was really about, was like movies and TV shows. But nobody wanted to give us movies and TV shows on a rev share basis. They wanted us to buy it, and content's really expensive. And even though we raised $12 million in our Series A, you can spend that all on one TV show.
Right.
So people kept saying no, and eventually we started writing big enough checks for the short form content that they started to give us a chance. And when that happened, the way Pluto works is we're ad supported, right? So the more people watch, the more money we make. The more money we make, the more we share with our content partners. The more we share with our content partners, the better the content they give us. The better the content they give us, the more people watch, right? So it became this kind of turnwheel, this cycle that like kind of fed itself. And we kept negotiating better and better content. We kept getting people to watch more and more. Our apps and products kept improving. And all of a sudden we're out there writing millions and millions and millions of dollars for content. And the company grew very, very fast. And one of the biggest owners of content is a company called Viacom. And we came to Viacom for content, and they said, well, we're not interested in giving you our content because we want our own direct-to-consumer content solution. And but what if we buy Pluto? We said, well, we're not for sale, but we have fiduciary responsibilities to our investors, and if you're serious, put something together, and we'll bring it to the board. And they did, and we agreed to move forward in a diligence process, where they examine and turn over every rock and make sure this is exactly what everyone wants. And fast forward I think like a few months, and on my birthday, actually on January 18th, the deal moved forward, and then it was officially approved by by the government, because when you're dealing with a big media company, you need to go through, I think, antitrust approvals or whatever they do. And that was approved in March, and that was when the deal officially closed, but it was announced in January of this year.
And then now in these kind of deals, typically some of the executives are asked to stay on, or part of the deal they must stay on. What's the situation with you?
Yeah, all of us. So what's amazing about Viacom and Bob, who's their CEO, is he's really an incredible CEO. And there's always this fear as an entrepreneur to get acquired by a big corporate company, right? Because there are always stories from other fellow entrepreneurs that, XYZ bought my company and killed it. They screwed it up. So that was obviously my big fear, because Pluto's growing really fast. And, I think we had a real opportunity to become a massive household name. And there was this natural fear of being acquired by a large corporation and which potentially turned the business into a different direction. But that was completely the opposite of what happened. And, the Viacom team knew that that we were growing fast, and the last thing they wanted to do was get in our way and screw it up. So they wanted our team to stay. They wanted us to continue doing what we're doing, and we became a subsidiary of theirs. And everyone stayed on board and continued to grow the business. And now we're growing even further, and they're providing us with more money, more resources, of course, their content. Recently, they merged with CBS. So now it's Viacom CBS that owns Pluto. So, with that, I think we're hopeful to continue to grow the business, and we now have more ammunition to continue being the leading free television service in America. So I'm on board. I'm sitting there. I'm watching my baby grow, and I'm here for the ride.
Yeah. So this is in perpetuity. Sometimes they say you got to stay with us for a year or two. So it's open end at this point, or what?
Yeah, I mean, people get different employment agreements. Obviously they're all confidential, but it's important for the founders to be there. It's important for the executive team to be there, and So I think all of us, if not most of us, if not all of us, are on board.
So still the same location?
Yeah. It's funny, actually, where we keep moving to different offices, but we grow so fast that we just pack the place like sardines. And so now I think we've got, I don't even know how many people, maybe 150, 160 people in a 14,000 square foot office. It's not enough. And we've got multiple locations across the world. And we're growing fast. It's definitely, there's growing pains, but it's not a bad problem to have.
Well, that's great. Now, I had the great fortune of having dinner with your mom and dad before this all happened, and they were I loved them ever since I've known them. You were able to do some good things for them, right?
Yeah. So I mean, my parents were always nervous about me going down this entrepreneurial path that you put me on, Tom. So they moved to the U.S. They wanted me to go to college, get a normal corporate job, and just kind of do what the average person does. And I went against the grain and went down a riskier path. And they were definitely nervous, but obviously supportive. And once this deal happened, I knew it was my turn to give back. Yeah. Because when they left Russia, they both had master's degrees. They had amazing jobs. Great life. Just good place to be. They sold everything that had $5,000 in their pocket, and we moved to Maryland, and they did it all for me and my brother. Yeah. And they gave everything up, and that really stuck with me. It's still with me, right? It's a lot to really be so selfless and look for a better life for your kids. And so when this company sold, it was my turn to give back. And I made my dad retire early. I moved both of them out over here to LA to be closer to their grandkids. Got them in a house, paid for everything. And right now they're in Mexico and on vacation. And I bought my dad a cool car, and all the stuff. Like they're blown away. I've never seen my dad cry before. It
Oh
was
man,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, and
And you got your
got
brother. You got your brother a job too.
got my brother a job at Pluto. He got an MBA from University of Texas, and moved him out here. So now, kind of, I was the first one to plant the flag in LA, but now everyone's here. Got everyone here, and we're all one big happy family.
Well, you kind of, not only did it pay back for your parents, but you did it for your daughters too, because they didn't have anything to watch until you made Pluto. so
Problem solved.
Yeah. So, oh man, it's so good catching up with you. I could talk to you all day, but I'm just so thrilled about what's happened and for you and the family, and just thrilled about it. But you're still buying dinner, next time I come out. And
I got this one, Tom.
Yeah, and I'm not paying for a hotel either, by the way, in this big new house you got. Tell us about that?
It's a nice house. I think I could find an extra room for you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So what's in the future? What's a guy like you do? 36 years old and got it made. I don't see you being the type to just sit around.
No, I mean, look, I think this is a once in a lifetime opportunity. I think naturally as an entrepreneur, we have a very high risk tolerance, right?
Mm-hmm.
But now I have a family. I'm 36, and I have to take this once in a lifetime opportunity to not screw it up, because the last thing I want for my reputation is to have this great outcome and then go spend all my money doing some stupid shit.
No, literally, you could buy a G5 jet.
Yeah. Yeah. So for me, it's I'm learning this new place of kind of being an investor, right? So I've never really invested. I've always invested in myself. Now I get to look at, how do you manage your money? How do you grow your money? How do you make sure you don't lose it? How do you bet on the right entrepreneurs? How do you make the right investments and make sure that, this outcome that I have lasts generationally? And my kids are taken care of, and their kids are taken care of, and so forth. And
don't make it too easy on them though, because then they won't grow up tough. Yeah.
No, that's not happening. So,
the way the world is right now, everybody, the kids can't do anything.
Nope, that's not going to happen with me. Believe me.
Okay.
And, so I'm, there's always new ideas I'm cooking up, and they're great investments I look at and I'm making, and this is year one and already doing well. And, I hope to kind of conquer this new category. That's really, to be honest, really exciting to me, because I've always been this startup guy, right? For 20 years. And now I'm in this new field, this new category that I've never been in before. Right. I'm an investor. I have to manage finances. I'm the last person you want in like an Excel spreadsheet, and like, I didn't even know what an IRR was, or how to calculate whatever, so I'm learning all this, and it's actually very mentally stimulating.
Well, yeah. And then you got to be careful too, because people will come out of the woodwork wanting money and managing things for you and all this, and all of a sudden it's you're broke like Willie Nelson.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So it's an interesting place to be, because I don't know enough, and there are a lot of bad deals out there.
Right.
So how do you make good decisions in that space? It's not easy, but luckily, I have a lot of fellow entrepreneurs and people that are friends that I trust that are more successful than me, and that's something that I've done, starting with you and going all the way, to today. Is I love to surround myself with people that are smarter and more successful than me. It's the only way you can really grow, and trust me, they know better, where to put your money and what to do with it, how to not screw it up, than someone trying to sell you into some kind of deal.
Exactly. Yeah, it's been so great catching up with you, man. So what's the best way if somebody wants to get in touch with you?
Probably LinkedIn is the best and easiest way. It's something that I check very often. So we'll.
Okay, so we'll put that in the show notes for you. It's Ilya, Ilya Pozin, Poz, like Zin. So give the best to the girls, and I can't wait to collect on my dinner. Yeah, that's my goal in life now.
I'll take you wherever you want to go, Tom. Thank you for everything you've done for me.
Congratulations, man. Okay, for everybody, we will catch you on the next episode. This has been a really great time for me and a momentous episode. I'm just thrilled. All right. Good night, everybody. See you later.